Welcome back, everybody, to the Star Wars podcast, where we talk all things Marvel and Star Wars. Guys, listen, it's so hard to do this intro. Like, I feel like typically, like, the things that we're talking about, like, we're in a circus, right? We're talking about the goofy She-Hulk or the crazy and wacky Bad Batch. Like, now I feel like I'm in, like, a museum looking at the Mona Lisa. Like, I don't know that I can have, like, the same gregarious intro as I typically have, but we are talking about The Last of Us. It is episode 3 and 4, titled A Long, Long Time, and Please Hold My Hand. And I'm joined by one of my favorite little strawberries. It's Tommy Pizzullo. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good, Michael. I did have one question that I just want to, like, at the top ask, because it's really been bothering me throughout the show. It's where do the baby mushrooms grow before they're born, though?
You got me.
In the mushroom.
Oh my gosh. Tommy, you know what's hilarious about this intro?
What?
Well, I'll have a question. What do you call a beehive with no exit?
What?
Unbelievable.
we both pull out our joke books.
We both got the joke books here today, and we're here with a guest who actually, I'll let you know now, the guest is not getting off without a joke. We got Jen Hurst here. Jen Hurst, before we even introduce you, I gotta ask, how do you fix a broken pumpkin?
I have no idea.
With a pumpkin patch. Okay.
Did you get these from the same joke book that Ellie was using?
I did Google cheesy jokes.
Yeah, I got mine from a website called Scary Mommy. So
I should have pulled out my Dark Tower book where they actually had a scene where they were going through these kind of cheesy jokes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jen, how are you doing, first of all?
Pretty good. I'm happy to be back. I was really excited as soon as they announced The Last of Us because I really enjoyed the game that I played. I played part 2, not part 1. And they're actually filming it in my hometown.
There you go. What town is that? If you want to dox yourself. Calgary, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So you're coming in here with like kind of a different perspective on some of the stuff. Like, can you like describe what you know about the first game? Like, are you like, I can't even remember like if there's too much reference to what happened to the first game and the second game. Yeah. Do you feel like you know where this is going?
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Like I kind of have an idea. Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna be pretty slim on the video game spoilers, especially for you here today, Jen, just in case you go back and play that first game, but for our audience as well. But Jen, what have you thought about The Last of Us, like as a whole, not even just these 2 episodes? Are you enjoying the show?
Yes, I'm really enjoying it. I think cinematography is great. The set design's really good. Plotting's good. And I really like how deep they're making the characters, and the actors of Ellie and Joel play off each other really, really well. I think they bring a lot of life to the characters, and they're really the highlight of each episode for me is just when they're together, just firing back at each other.
Yeah, and we get a lot of that good stuff in episode 4, and it's one of the reasons I love episode 4 so much. But Tommy, I think the big, the worst part about episode 4 is the fact that it came after episode 3, which I think people have almost universally called like one of the greatest episodes of television of all time.
Yeah, unless you're one of those silly, I won't say silly. I'm going to use intense words here. Unless you're a stupid review bomber who's trying to review bomb episode 3. Don't do that. Because that episode is incredible, Michael. It's incredible.
Like, there are things that I hate with a passion that I won't give a bad review to. You know, like, I don't go out my way. Like, I don't, that's what I don't relate to is like, that level of hate. Like, you know, I've bought things on Amazon that break within seconds of opening the box, and like I don't even post a picture of it.
Yeah, and it's we all know why it's getting review bombed. It's not even because they even hate it, it's because they need to wake up. That's all I gotta say. But in general, I want to go back to the good stuff. Episode 3 was probably the best episode of TV I've watched. Like, I really feel that in my deepest of hearts. And I love, you know, something we talked about, Michael, is, oh, maybe it's too close to the video game. Maybe it just feels like repeat. Not episode 3. There's probably this much that is from the video game. And I love that. And they did it incredibly.
Yeah. No, we will start off with episode 3 here. It is a long, long time. Jen, I want to get your overall takes. Like, what was your thoughts on? Like, I know me and Tommy are raving already. Are you with us here? Are you a review bomber?
I think it was a good episode. I liked the love story and I liked the subtle flirting, how they fell in love with each other. But I know that they died in the video game, but I was still kind of like, doesn't it kind of fit into the bury your gays trope? So that was kind of my question. I was trying to Google and see some takes on it. And it seemed like it was pretty divided. Like some people felt like it was, some people felt like it wasn't.
Can you lay that out for me? What is this trope?
The bury your gay trope is kind of like when you have queer characters, they typically tend to die. Like they tend to be subtle. Like if you watch Pretty Little Liars, Maya gets killed for seemingly no reason. In The 100, you got Lexa getting killed also for like no reason. So it's kind of like almost to the benefit of the straight characters, which I felt like a little bit for this, but at the same time, they lived a long, full life. So they were both old by the end, so it doesn't quite fit.
Yeah, I think for me, this because it's like we get that. There's always the fridge. You know, I felt that a little bit with Tess, and like another phrase is like put them in the fridge, which comes from the comic books. Comes from
refrigerators.
Yeah, it comes from a Flash comic book where you get rid of your women, and so that the male characters can shine and grow from that.
Yeah.
So I definitely like to hear that, and I think for me, what makes it work here is it's their story. It's not focused on, because we weren't really focused on Joel and Ellie while we were telling their story. To me, it was fully embracing them, Frank and Bill, and their story for me. And I think, but at the same time, I do feel what you're saying of like, can we see and I think I think we'll get more of that. Hopefully, I think the show wants to embrace that kind of stuff. Listening to the official podcast gives a little bit more insight into that. But I think what it does too on that is those characters in the video game, at least, like you said, Frank is dead in the video.
Yeah,
not to spoil too much, but Bill is still alive, and that's like a big difference. But one of the things that we talk about with Bill in the game is Bill shows Joel what he could become if he shuts himself off to the world. And I think what this does is it does a similar thing, and it shows, instead of showing Joel what he could become if he doesn't, it shows Joel what he could become if he does embrace love and embrace protecting that one person. And so I think you get the same goal, and that was the focus, I think, less than killing both of them, just to kill both of them to bury your gay. But I think it's a really good point to bring up.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring it up. I do agree with you, because it did feel like they kind of contrast, like Bill, it was Joel, and Frank, why am I blanking on his name? Will is the optimist, and that's kind of like Tina in the last episode, so it's kind of showing their story too.
Yeah, so I think I totally get that complaint, and I think that's the thing that I think, they kind of accomplished avoiding some of that stuff, because the adaptation from the video game, and again, we're not going to spoil the video game, but we will talk about the differences in the video game. And basically what they did, I would accept that complaint a lot more for the video game, where like Tommy said, we didn't even get to meet Frank really, and the fact that they were even partners was in like a passing line, right? But in the show, what they did is they were able to expand those characters and give them so much more depth, and we actually get to see the relationship blossom. And again, it's just one episode, and it would be great to get more stories like this. And I think, again, like that's the kind of thing where like, future shows will look at this and be like, how can we do that better? But also, with that being said, I think The Last of Us has, some other queer stories in their pockets that they're going to get to. Not to spoil anything too much, but I'm excited to see where that goes. And it sets a good precedent, I think, as well, where like, it kind of draws a line in the sand in a way, between, the typical review bombers and being like, this is what the show is. And they didn't shy away from even like the very romantic scenes, right? Like, I think that's a thing that you see in a lot of these stories where like, you'll get heavy male and female sex scenes in shows, but like, I don't know. This is like one of the most intimate things I've seen between same-sex couple on a show. So
it was very, I think, well portrayed. Like it was very sensual and almost like, I don't want to say soft, but it kind of fit that vibe, I thought, in their tender scenes.
Yeah, they didn't try to I feel like sometimes with gay couples, they try to like they stereotype, right? Like it's a lot of overt. What this works is because it felt very natural, it felt very organic. The chemistry was there. It just played. And I think that's like multiple times in this episode I was sobbing. And just the beauty and the way both actors really portray this relationship, and I think that's the thing for me is like it plays. If you don't watch any episode of Last of Us, you can watch this episode and I feel the emotion and feel the impact that it's supposed to get because it doesn't have anything building up to it. We meet these characters and in this episode see it all play out, and still everyone I talked to has felt some sort of emotion from it.
Yeah, no, well said. This was very emotional. It like totally gobsmacked me, because honestly, like I completely forgot about that very passing line in the game. Like this was not on my radar. So like seeing this develop in front of my eyes and not remembering all of that was like it really blew me away. And one thing that I don't know, Tommy, did you see this coming like as the episode was developed and you were watching it, like when we get their meet cute, right? He's in the hole, and I don't know, like the way, like there was a moment there I was like, oh yeah, there could be a connection here, but I was like, I don't know that they'll go that deep into it, and then they did and surprised me in that way. So I don't know, did you see it all coming like this?
Yeah, for me, I did know a little bit. So like I knew that 3 was a big episode. From everyone I heard through the ethers that I know things, that 3 is the episode that changes the show, that gonna put you into it's the episode. So I knew that. I knew Frank and Bill were in a relationship for the game. Like it was passing, but I do want to say for those that are trying to say the show's retconning, it's not a retcon. It was in there from the beginning. The literal creator has said that was always his intention. So I don't know why people are trying to fight him on it. I won't be that point anymore. But yeah, I think for me, I didn't see the extent, and they faked me out a couple of times. I think Jen, you said it earlier, like they just did it so cleanly, and everything was so thought out. Like then they faked me out with Bill getting shot, and I was like, okay, well I know that Bill survives. So then this doesn't happen, and then it ends up happening anyway. It was just a whole roller coaster of emotion, and it got me. It definitely, even though I like knew it was probably going to be impactful, I had inklings. But even like Frank being in the hole, I thought he was Sketch City. I thought he was going to scam. I thought they were retconning the whole thing, and he was scamming Bill. That's what I thought.
This gave me big Ben Linus vibes from Lost. I don't know if anyone gets that reference. Yeah, I was a little worried at first. Again, like I thought it could go a lot of different ways. Tommy, I want to touch on this real quick because this is something we constantly talk about in terms of marketing. And oftentimes, I'm a big proponent of the trailers, but I can be very let down by trailers too, and marketing and how they show things. So I see the complaints about trailers. I will say that this show has been almost a perfect example for how to market something, because the amount that they showed Bill was, from a game player's perspective, you would think, oh, okay, well, this is just basically the same exact thing from the video game. And I think that's the thing that really subverted my expectations, where, we just see that younger Bill that we saw from the game. We didn't even see Frank. And the fact that they kind of turned it all on us, like, I didn't even think Frank was going to be a big part of the episode when I first saw him, because I was like, well, this isn't Frank's story or Bill's story. Right. So, it's rare that I'm able to defend trailers well. And I just want to say this is the example of how to do it.
I didn't watch the trailers.
I literally watched the trailers so I could be like, oh, I've been there.
No, Jen, join me over on the good side.
Yeah. I do want to, I guess we can talk about, let's see here. I really like how, I think another big way they subverted expectations in how they built up Bill as a queer character, right? Because I think like stereotypically when you first see him, especially with like the room full of guns and the "don't tread on me" flag, right? Like that's the type of person you would see, review bombing a show like this. And I don't know, they were able to show a lot softer side of it. So I don't know if that's necessarily a good message or not, but again, I think it just tells different types of queer stories, which I appreciate. Jen, I want to ask you this, and your read on the episode. Because I don't know if I know. I think I know where they're going with it, but like they didn't sell it 100%. Has Bill always been a queer?
I don't know if I can 100% like, I mean, he's always been, yeah, obviously. I feel like even if you meet someone later in life, I feel like you still technically are a queer person. Does that mean he's only been with men? I don't know. We don't know. That's not clarified, and it doesn't really matter.
Okay, I mean that's a fair read too. I guess I saw a lot of people saying that Bill was finding comfort in just a human, not necessarily he was willing to sacrifice some of his previously conceived notions to find love. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
But
is that a way to read it?
But they did say when they were doing the scene with the piano, he said, "Is this about a girl?" And he said, "There's no girl." So either it means he's never been with anyone or it had been a man before, is how I took it.
Yeah, I took it in like listening to the podcast, how I interpret it. And I think what I do love about the show is there's a lot of interpretations. Like I know, well, I'll get to that later. But I think for me, I interpret it as maybe he was closeted, maybe he wasn't. He never got the opportunity. It never, but like, and then the pandemic, the whole thing happened. So then it's like, then you have no one in the world. And I think he was like, yes, do I think he was a very lonely man in comfort? But I do think from my read, I do believe like he was always like interested in men. Yeah. Maybe never got the opportunity, but yeah.
Gotcha. So I want to talk about some of like, we do get, yeah, go ahead, Tommy.
Sorry. I just want to piggyback off this. Something that was like, I've been discussing is like, what I love about the show is the show not tell of this, right? And when did you pick up that Frank figured? Instead, like when did you pick up that Frank figured out? Because I've heard a couple of theories. Like I'll say mine after I hear your guys of like when do you think that he was like, oh, maybe there could be this connection with Bill?
I think it was very early.
Yeah, for me it was the dinner scene. When he got her, he's like, I know you don't think I'm this kind of wine guy. And he's like, no, that's exactly who I thought you were. Like that to me was just so cute. I really like that.
That's mine. I think it was the wine. I think it was when it was like, oh, you want to think I'd be the person pairing these things. And he's like, oh, I think you'd be exactly the person. It's so cute.
Which tells me that Frank had an inkling even before that. So it's from my understanding that it was almost the first interaction that they had in which he could again tell that Bill's not the type of person to let somebody in, but the fact that he was willing to do it for him specifically. And even like, their exchange and the way Bill was even able to break down a little bit there, you kind of see him be very hard with him at first, and that kind of softens. And I think he saw that in that moment.
Yeah. And that's something I want to talk about too off this is like, yeah. And I think that yes, I think it's cool that it can be interpreted all these different ways. And I think like it shows, I also love the small details that you're picking up on. Like Nick Offerman with his small smiles, his small, like tucking the hair. There were so many small cues from both of them that were just so brilliant. It was just so brilliant.
Yep. I want to dive in deeper into the end of the episode here and kind of talk about Frank's last day, right? So we get to the point where Frank is very sick, and he basically tells Bill that this is it. This is how he wants to go out like this. It's been really great, but this is his last day. And I thought it was very beautiful. You see what they take a stroll around the area, and it's very sweet. And I don't know if you guys have comments on that, but I also want to dive into Bill's ultimate decision as well to join Frank. So,
yeah, just off the whole thing, gosh, it was brilliant to have Frank be the one that gets sick, because the whole time you're showing Frank running, like you're showing him be the fit one, you're showing him be, and just like that's how, like, especially like, and they never mentioned what kind of sickness. I took it as like maybe MS or something like that. It happens no matter how you lived your life before, and it's tragic. This hit me the minute I saw him in the chair. I was like, oh, my heart, because that's such a tragic thing that I think about, and I thought like this whole thing, the whole like the lines in this episode, the ones here where he goes like, "Love me the way I want to be loved," like that kind of stuff. And then earlier the strawberry scene with the like, I haven't felt fear before I met, or this wasn't scared before I met you. Like brilliant lines. But yeah, I think this whole setup with Frank and Bill and the way they played this was very touching.
Yeah, Jen, I don't know if you had any thoughts on, the final day here. And also, I guess, again, I want to dive into, like, what did you think about Bill? He also decided to join Frank in having a last day.
Well, I think Frank's decision made sense because when you reach a certain point, a lot of degenerate illnesses, it's either like you let yourself go to a point like that you're not really there. You do it at the point he did where you're still cognitive enough to make that decision. And for Bill, I think it did make sense because they didn't have any kids. They didn't have a lot of other friends. He was older. So he didn't really have anything else to go on for. Like they've been together for what, like 15, 20 years or something. That was like, I got his decision. It may not have been the one everyone else will make, but for him, I thought it made sense.
Yeah, and I think I really do like the juxtaposition of where he was before Frank and after Frank because, maybe he meets Frank for a day, Frank goes on, and he has no problem going on, but Frank was able to change that part of him. Bill was such a recluse. Like we saw that even before in his little bunker, right? Like he's always been kind of like a lone wolf. And I think Frank kind of changed that in him. And I think that's the most beautiful part.
Yeah, I think when we get that later, we can talk about the letter after this, but we get that basically confirmation of like, I hated everyone. and Frank taught him to love and to care, even if you care about just one person, you're still caring about someone. And I think Bill's choice here, as much as I was like, I didn't see it coming. This is probably the most, I like thought it for a second because like, in my head, I'm like, well, like I could see Bill doing this, but like again, I think the video game was talking too much for me. But man, that was where he's like, was it pills in the bottle enough to kill a horse? Like, and then like the whole speech afterwards, like this isn't your, like they're almost talking to the audience here. I felt like where they're like, this isn't like your tragedy in those plays. I've lived a good life. I've done it. This is not a sad, this is me embracing the next journey with you together.
Yeah, well said. And you mentioned the letter. I do want to talk about the letter. We haven't talked much about Joel and Ellie in this episode. There is a little bit. We get some stuff in the beginning where they're talking about, don't blame me. That all that stuff is really good, but yeah, any highlights from Joel and Ellie in this episode, especially here at the end and anything else?
Well, two things. One is she found the gun, which as soon as she did that, I was like, okay, something big's happening next episode. And then her acting like the car was a spaceship and like having no idea how anything worked, and the seatbelt, I think was just great. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the car spaceship. Keep that spaceship thought. I also I think the whole beginning was good. They gave a nice exposition explaining. Like, I liked getting from Joel the confirmation on the flower, like getting that exposition out in the beginning. I think it was brutal. The bones, the big Nazi. There's also very much humor. We've talked about the tragedy, but like the humor, some of my favorites. This isn't an Arby's. This isn't, or get your free lunch. And Arby's didn't give out free lunches. It was great. The line about the government's Nazis. Well, they are now, but they weren't back then. Was also a brilliant line. And yeah, the bones, like that's basically what they were, like how the similarities of that, of like, yeah, if you're not dead, you can't be infected, and how brutal that is. Like, I see the justification of that. It's still terrible. It doesn't make me feel good. So all that in the beginning I thought was great. And then the letter, the gun was great. The letter was so brilliantly written. I love that they added in. It was so good.
Her reading it was perfect.
Yeah, her reading it. I'm gonna say I'm whomever was great. And I think for me, what I love about the letter is what it does to Joel, and kind of what I was talking at the beginning of, like Joel seeing this as. If we look at Joel so far, he's not a good protector. He sucks at it. He's lost Sarah. He lost Tess. He lost Tommy for, like they basically lost Tommy. And also, like, I thought about this too in a different way. I'm going on a long rivet, so I apologize. But Bill dies for Frank. You know who didn't die for his partner? Joel. Tess goes and he's like, cool, I'm out of here. It shows that Tess wasn't that one protecting that Bill was talking about. There's one protection. And so Joel's looking for that now, even if he doesn't realize he's looking for it. I think that's the thing that, like, especially listening to the creators, they talk about a lot is like sometimes in TV shows and movies, we make characters too smart. And in real life, we're not that smart. We're dummies. A lot of times our bodies figure out things, our minds figure out things before we actually physically like think about it and actually realize these things. And I think that's what we're seeing with Joel. And this letter is just like that spark. That's like, he needs to be a protector. That's what he believes his role is. Bill's calling him out on it. You are the protector. We're the same people, but you haven't been doing your job.
Yeah, no, well said. And I think that's going to inform a lot of Joel's story here with Ellie as well, where he's going to feel a lot of responsibility. And I think he's sick of losing. So that says a lot. So are you guys ready to dive into episode 4? And I think the big thing I want to talk about here, and it kind of connects into this episode, with, between the gun, the pit of bodies. We even get a scene here in the opening of the episode where Ellie is very much fascinated with a clicker and kind of messing with it and cutting it open. We're getting a very psychotic angle of Ellie here. Jen, are you worried about Ellie? I feel like we're getting this pushed on us even more than we did in the game. So yeah, what do you think about it? Like, she's very she's down to kill. She's down to cut open clickers. What's going on here?
I think she's a product of her environment. I think when you grow up in that kind of world, you're a lot harsher. You don't really think of the clickers as people. And I feel like that's kind of why she's so survivalist too.
Yeah, so we do open here, and this is where we see the gun again. She is pointing it at the mirror. Again, there's gonna be big taxi driver vibes, right? Kind of wondering about her. But yeah, she's in the bathroom of this gas station. But this is also where we get the joke book. A lot of good jokes here. I thought this was really fun throughout the episode, and how they kind of detailed Joel's evolution of his tolerance for Ellie, where he seems to enjoy the jokes every time, and Ellie does win a chuckle by the end. So I thought that was cute. I
liked when she found men's magazines, and she's like, "What is this?" She's like, "Why is it sticky?" Thought that was pretty good. He's like, "That's not for children."
Yeah. So, that was a moment I would that was a very funny moment in the game, and I was really hoping we'd see it here. So very proud.
Yeah, I love everything in this beginning, and I think what we're seeing is what I think they're doing almost a better job than I think they did in the game is showing the two sides of Ellie, and I can't take credit. They said this on the podcast, but it's very telling that she carries the thing she carries in her pack is a gun and a joke book. It's the two sides of Ellie. There's this super goofy side, but there is a side that kind of feels cool with the gun. There's definitely the side that is fascinated by death, by that idea of being this of protecting something you care about is something she's intrigued by, and having someone that's protecting that cares about her, I think is a big thing. And so I thought this whole beginning with the jokes, just with the these pages are a little sticky. Just kidding. I'm fucking with you. It's Ellie. She's doing such a great job with this character of adding her own style to it while also taking what we love from the video games.
Tommy, I know we talked about the Bella Ramsey haters before, but I think an underrated talking point here is freaking close your eyes and listen to Bella Ramsey speak. It is uncanny how much she sounds like Ellie from the video game. It gave me goosebumps because I was kind of multitasking when I rewatched one of the episodes, and I wasn't looking at the screen, and I heard Bella Ramsey speak, and it's just Ellie from the game. Everything from the heart to the performance. Oh man, I love it. I love the portrayal. So she's the best. What else here? So we also, this is where we run into another very similar moment in the game where they kind of get sabotaged here. We see a man who appears to be injured, and he's trying to flag them down, and Joel's like, nope, that's not happening. And then they get sabotaged here. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and I want to get you guys' take on it. Everything from, well, I guess most importantly, like we get this insane choice here with this young boy that's dying and how they handle it.
Well, I want to go like, yes. First off, that's not Pittsburgh. But I'm not that upset about it. Just wanted to mention that it's for, we're not going to, but yeah, this is supposed to be Pittsburgh.
To be fair, it's not Kansas City either, is it?
We all know where it is.
But yeah, and I think Kansas City works here. Yeah, I mean, did you trust this guy? I was like, no, run him over. And a good callback to episode 1 where Joel's like, I'm not stopping. I didn't stop 20 years ago. I'm not stopping now.
Yeah, no, I ended up rewatching the clip from, and this is another one that's like, it's one of these action scenes where like, I don't know how, like, it's so impressive how like this is like shot for shot a moment from the game. But yeah, so we do end up, they kind of fight them off. Joel gets Ellie to hide, and another guy comes in and tries to sabotage them, and Joel puts them down. And actually, no, before that, Joel is being pinned down, and Ellie sneaks out with the gun and takes the man down. So at least she's putting it to use.
I loved everything here. I loved this was probably the peak of the episode for me for a couple of reasons. I think this character Brian was just the quick change from him aggressively being like, Joel, you killed my friend, like, rah, to the minute he gets shot, he becomes a child. He becomes a baby who's like pleading for his life, crying, literally like, what do I do? Like, he is panicked. He is a baby. And I love that change. It tells you so much about that group. It tells you so much about Brian as a person. Rest in peace, Brian. And in Ellie's choice here, we see, similar, and I'm glad we got this moment because it's such a big moment for Ellie of like, in the way she plays it of it's impactful. Yes, she says she's shot before, but not in this way. You can tell, or she's killed before. It's not in this way. And there's something about this, the way she plays it, the way Joel puts it on himself, the responsibility, the baggage of this, of like, this was my fault. I messed up. I couldn't hear because it's right. That was my bad.
Tommy, not you bullying this dying kid. You're like this little baby.
Wham, wham, baby. Go home.
That's what I thought too. Like, he had no problem hurting anyone else, but as soon as it was on him, it's like, oh my God, I need my mommy.
I will say that's one thing that The Last of Us video games did really well, especially in the second one. Like the NPCs, like the enemies, like they make you feel really bad for killing them because like they scream things out like this, like, help me, Stacy. And then like Stacy's like, Brian, where are you?
Yeah, and I honestly think they took that from the game. It's like, I think in the background at one point you hear like, oh no, they got Brian. Like, it's straight video game language.
From the game. Yeah, so I want to talk about this. I guess to both of you. Tommy, you mentioned it. Ellie has mentioned that she killed before. I can't remember if that was the case in the game. Tommy, maybe you can clarify. I have a feeling we're going to find out more what that is either way, so it's probably a spoiler if we did know from the game. But I don't know. Did you guys have any reads on that? Like, I don't know. Ellie's a killer?
I have two thoughts. I think either is the zombie we saw in the last episode is what they're considering, or the infected that they're considering in the last episode. Or I have another thought, but I'm going to leave it because it's a little spoilery. I have another thought of what it could be hinting towards.
Yeah, Jen, what's your read here? Has Ellie killed a person?
My first thought was same as Tommy. It was the infected in the first episode. But it could also be someone else, and then maybe that's how she got bit too. I haven't played part 1, so I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah. That's why we want to get your takes. Fresh perspective here. So, Okay. Okay. So another thing I want to talk about here, a thing that's not part of the first game, a big character, and seems to be one of the bigger changes in this game, Kathleen. I don't have the actress's name off the top of my head, but she's great in Yellow Jacket. So I was down to see her here. Jim, what did you think of Kathleen in this episode?
I'm trying to think. I thought she was good. I remember her more in Yellow Jackets, though, off the top of my head, now that you mention it, then I can think about her in the show.
Yeah. Tommy, is this like a necessary addition?
It's hard to know because I don't know where they're going in the next episode. I think a lot of this is going to be next episode could boost this episode a ton or make it worse. I think for me, this character, it's intriguing that they're building up these hunters, people group. I think what they're trying to do is like show that like everyone's protecting, like Joel and Ellie, we're only seeing one version of this, but like they also feel justified for what they're doing and their protection. It seems some kind of sort of uprising, some sort of like fight against Fedra, and then they took over. So I'm intrigued by it. I think it's probably the weakest for me just because it is so unfamiliar. And I as opposed to like Bill and Frank, where we expanded on it, we got a ton of time in that. I feel like we almost need more time to really fully understand what's happening with her. But I think the actress played this perfect. Even just like the uncomfortability with the gun until she does shoot it. And then now she's comfortable. Now she's got the power. And in that moment, even though like maybe don't kill your doctor. I get it. I get the heat of the moment. But like there's probably going to be other people that are going to be injured. Not just this Brian. Like why do we care so much about Brian?
Doctors are like bullets out here. You know, you don't just throw them out. It's currency right here. I really liked her portrayal and that like you mentioned with the gun, but also like she's not like a superimposing force, right? She's not like a Negan from The Walking Dead, right? She's like a girl who lost her brother and she's upset, right? She's just a person. And I think that's the type of personification we don't typically get from like, the Raider type person from a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, she gave me like Deadpool vibes where he's like hunting down all the people. That's what it gave me. Like, my brother went missing. Do you all need to pay?
Yeah. So another interesting thing here that Kathleen runs into is there seems to be some like bubbling underground, right? There's something moving. Jen, what's going on here? Is there like I have a feeling I know based on the game, but I want to get the fresh perspective. Do you have any idea of what's underground here?
I'm not sure exactly Last of Us term, but it kind of reminded me of some like Resident Evil scenes from those games that I played where you go underground. They have like the monsters still under there. So that's my guess.
Yes, Resident Evil crossover. I'd be here for it. Tommy, you have a pretty good idea where this is going?
Yeah, it's a swimming pool, right? With its floaters and like all that, right? Or like a soup.
It's the brand new water pavement, like water beds, but
yeah,
this is water.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
I knew we had to bring those back somehow.
Yeah, one way or another.
Yeah, I have a good confirmation. Also, fun fact number 102, the voice actor that plays Tommy is Kathleen, is her right-hand man here.
What a stunning man. My God, why does he have voice actor? Just be around. I mean, just good, just built for TV. I'm not as straight as can be, but I don't know. This man might turn me. I like the
beautiful man. Yeah, beautiful man.
Okay.
But yes, it was fun. I love that they're giving the voice actors roles in the show. I know a couple more are coming up that I'm excited for. Ooh. I think it's just fun that they're doing that. It shows just an appreciation for the video games too.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess here by the end of the episode, they kind of find a place to sleep. Joel has the great idea of laying the glass out. But Ellie ends up waking him up, and it looks like I guess we can. They don't directly say it, but this is the aforementioned Henry that they've been talking about.
Yeah, I think we can assume that. I also love the small details. He falls asleep on his right side, but he wakes up on his left side. So you can imagine that, like, that's why he didn't hear them, step over the glass, because he's losing his hearing. And so, again, small details matter. And, man, we'll see what's happening with Henry and Sam.
Yep.
I liked how, too, they had the build-up when they were in the woods, and Ellie's like, Joel, as he's sleeping on his left side, and so that came back into play, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that was good. What we skipped over, probably the most important. Would you eat 20-year-old Chef Boyardee?
I don't think that shit expires, so...
It go on forever? Oh, man.
I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, it's in a can. My gramps used to say you need to leave that shit and Spam in your house for the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we should, Michael. Let's get in on the I think this is what this show has taught me. We need to get in on the preserves game. Just like start stocking up, and then everyone's going to be coming to us. We'll sell it like hotcakes when it all goes down.
Make sure you don't forget toilet paper.
Yeah.
The thing I was trying to figure out is how they went to a gas station and actually used the pump. How is this gas station working? Like, is someone coming around filling up the gas stations? Is there still a generator running? Like, I just don't understand how it's working.
So I would imagine it's kind of like an older timey gas station. I would imagine there's some sort of like hydraulic mechanism that allows you to actually pump still without electricity. And then they just got lucky to find a full tank, I guess.
Which gas station was this?
The first one, right? Or
yeah, it was the first one.
Oh, they were. I don't know if they were siphoning. I think they were taken from the cars. They were like sucking.
That was the next one when she was telling the jokes.
How many
and
gas stations are there?
There was the one where they were siphoning. Yeah, they were going to the cars and she was telling the jokes and he had the handkerchief. Then there was one where he was actually at a gas station pump. And I was just so confused about how this was working.
Now I'm confused too. Yeah, cut all this, Michael. I fucked up. We don't want to show that to you. Get this out of here.
I mean,
I was trying to come in on my big high horse and be like, well, actually, Jen, they siphoned the stuff, and now I'm just a big jabroni.
Someone please message me how these gas station pumps are working.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, well, do you guys have any other final comments on this episode or The Last of Us as a whole?
I think they're doing a really good job. I hope they just keep going. I am kind of mapping out in my head where I think each episode is going to go to. I had a feeling we were going to expand one of these moments into 2 episodes. This one I think makes a lot of sense. I think Pittsburgh in the game is a big moment. I think a lot happens there, so I think this was justified. I think we're starting to see Joel and Ellie the way we want to see Joel and Ellie, like great bonding moments. I think 4 for a lot of people it's hard because it came after 3. 4 for a lot of people is like, it's good, but not the best of The Last of Us. But for me, it really builds out Joel and Ellie. We see Joel open up, he talks, he laughs for like this is probably do you think this is the first time he's laughed in 20 years?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Like he's always frowning. He's a grumpy Gil.
Even with like Tess, who was like his person. Like there wasn't any lighthearted nature there.
He's the epiphany of the grumpy trope.
Yeah.
You really? Oh, dude, they probably didn't even have Grumpy Cat. Because was Grumpy Cat before? Oh man.
Maybe, but I was thinking the Grumpy Sunshine romance trope, which might have been around before.
All right, we'll get that one. But the Grumpy Cat, they wouldn't know what that existed. I've been thinking about that, like what they never would have seen. I saw like a list, like Shrek 2. They only saw Shrek 1. They never saw the second Shrek.
I think they only saw the premiere of Survivor Pearl Islands.
Okay, well, they missed out on a big season there.
Yeah, they really missed out. But the premiere was pretty good too. They at least know to steal shoes.
Yeah,
they would know the strategy to steal some shoes out there.
Hard. Thick denim. Okay.
Now I just want to see Rupert running around in The Last of Us. Where is he?
Austin with all his clothes gone.
Yeah.
One other
Pelican
thing
Pete.
that's kind of related is Travel Alberta has a little map and site they're starting with every single location. So if you're interested in taking a trip, you can follow the exact 140 plus locations that The Last of Us went to this season.
All right. I love that. That's awesome.
Should we do that, Michael? After all this, we go on a little road trip. I'll be the Ellie, you be the Joel. Sorry, I just gave you that role, but I just figured it fits.
Here, leave the magazine for you in the back and everything.
I'm the grumpy.
Oh, look at this magazine! Whoa!
You know what tour I actually want to go on? The Breaking Bad tour. I don't know if you guys have seen the TikToks of the Breaking Bad house and the lady. People on TikTok, they go visit the Breaking Bad house, and this lady, she lives there, and she has a fence built around it, and she cusses out anybody who comes there. People always get it on camera. It's very fun.
Well, because didn't they throw pizza? Wasn't that a whole thing where people were throwing pizzas on the house?
Maybe. I'm sure she has gone through hell, but it's also funny. She's like, F off. You're not Walter White. Get out of here. I'm calling the cops. Very, very much get off my lawn. Again, deservedly so.
Yeah.
But, I'll buy the house. I mean, I can't buy the house, but I would if I had the money. Okay.
I'd buy a lot of houses if I had the money, Michael.
Can't even buy a regular house, let alone.
Yeah.
Okay. Jen, thank you so much for joining us. This was such a blast. I want to give you the chance to tell people where they can find you online and anything else you're up to.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jen__Hurst. And yeah, you can just see me post whatever I'm reading on Instagram right now.
Okay, well, actually, let's do this real quick. We sometimes close with recommendations. Is there a good book that you're reading right now that you want to recommend to people?
Ooh. So in the theme of fungi horror, which, as we can see in The Last of Us, it's also now a trend in literature. So I'd recommend What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher and Sorrowland by River Solomon.
All right, wonderful. I'm not a big reader, so I'm not going to promise to read those, but if there are readers, they should, right?
Yeah, get your fungi horror in.
Yeah. Tommy, do you have a book to recommend? He's looking around the room. He's got a bookshelf, but I don't see any books on it. There's something more. I don't know
on it. What are you trying to say?
You
know what I'll recommend? I started the Mistborn series. If you like fantasy type things, I'm starting Mistborn. So Sanderson, great writer, finished Wheel of Time, and I'm excited to try it.
Mistborn's amazing. Solid choice.
So
I'll let you know my journey. Yeah.
I have mostly comic books up here. I have 2 actual books that I haven't read. So you can read The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs. I don't know if it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's
Somebody
good.
recommended it to me. I bought it and I haven't even cracked a page. So
the best part is the pictures.
Okay. So you've read this book.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at you. I love this. All right. I will start to close this out here. I like to remind you guys to rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify, preferably 5 stars. Also, please subscribe because we're going to be every single week with either Last of Us or Bad Batch coverage. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Star Wars Pod. And we also have a Discord community going on. So if you want to join that, we would love to have you. Just message us and we'll get you a link. But that is all we got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Hey, Jen, what animal builds buildings?
A beaver.
Tommy, do you know?
A human.
A boa constructor.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's a good one.
Hey, no, I'm not going to do it. All right.
That's it. All right.